Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping right in today, looking at some source material that really pushes the boundaries, exploring things like consciousness, maybe even telepathy, and how some non-speaking individuals communicate.
Yeah, our mission today is to walk you through a really um, remarkable case study. It focuses on a mother, Manisha, and her son, Aquil. Now, Aquil has autism and he communicates using typing, and their experiences point towards something. Well, something Manisha calls shared consciousness.
And the sources immediately highlight this real tension, right? This conflict.
Mm.
You've got the scientific side, people like the neuroscientist Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, pushing for really rigorous, controlled testing. Needs to be scientific.
Absolutely. Science demands that skepticism, that hard evidence, repeatable results. You need those no-touch tests to even start considering these phenomena seriously.
But then on the other side, you have the human side. Parents like Manisha. They're not just curious. They have this urgent need for answers, for ways to empower their kid. They need to understand how this communication actually works.
Exactly. And the real difficult part, as the source points out, is that because this whole topic is so controversial, so taboo, really, getting the funding for the kind of research needed, it's incredibly difficult, almost impossible sometimes.
Right. And in the middle of all this is Aquil. He was diagnosed with autism very young, 18 months old, and he was nonverbal for years. I mean, doctors told Manisha he'd likely never speak.
Yeah, basically written off in some ways.
But today, he's in college. He wants to study plant medicine. It's just an incredible turnaround.
It's a huge leap, and the sources say it really starts when he's about 11.
That's when he encounters supported typing at a new school. Now, this is also known sometimes as facilitated communication, or, importantly for this discussion, S2C spelling to communicate. And it's super controversial.
Oh, absolutely. And the controversy, it all boils down to the supported part. The criticism is that any physical support, even if it's just light touch on the wrist or forearm, elbow, even the shoulder, that the facilitator might be, unconsciously guiding the hand.
So the words aren't really the students.
That's the fear, yeah, that it's the facilitator's thoughts coming through, not the person trying to communicate.
But for Manisha, this was different. Professionals had told her for a decade. Aquil didn't even know his letters. But she made this, fundamental choice. She decided to presume competence. She ignored the expert advice and just tried typing with him herself, alone.
Which took incredible faith, really.
It did, and it worked. That presumption paid off. He started typing, and eventually he learned to type completely independently. No physical support needed at all. He types into an iPad or computer entirely on his own.
And that is the key point here, that independence takes it out of the realm of standard facilitated communication debates and into something else, something potentially testable.
And the very first thing he communicated once he was independent, it was just staggering. It revealed this really deep mind-body disconnect. He typed, "I cannot see my body and my mind."
Wow. Just imagine that, living like that, disconnected internally for so long. It really makes you rethink everything, doesn't it? All the behaviors Manisha might have seen before, suddenly they have a different potential explanation.
Totally. It wasn't about intelligence or defiance, maybe,
Yeah.
but this fundamental lack of sensory awareness of his own body.
Mm.
So Manisha started teaching him, touching each finger, his hand, saying, "This is your finger, this moves."
Helping him connect the physical reality to his internal state.
Right. And he got it. He realized his body does move, even though he still apparently feels the body in his mind doesn't move. But he made that connection.
And once that bridge was built, well, things got even more extraordinary, didn't they? Because the connection seemed to go beyond just his own body or the room he was in.
This is where the idea of telepathy really enters the picture for Manisha. She started getting this feeling Aquil was, like reading her mind when he was away at school.
How so?
Well, she'd be out running errands, maybe go to Walmart, then Target. Later, Aquil would type out that exact sequence Walmart Target, even though she hadn't told him anything about her day.
Okay, that's pretty specific and hard to explain through normal means.
Exactly. And that kind of experience is why she started leaning towards the term shared consciousness, not just telepathy. She looked into the spelling community, heard these theories, ideas that maybe their thoughts, their consciousness fields somehow become identical.
Right, not just sending a message from A to B, but something more integrated, like the idea that the non-speaker is borrowing the other person's mental blackboard or using the mother's cognitive hardware. Those are the kind of concepts she encountered.
It suggests a much deeper merging, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And there were other anecdotes suggesting this connection worked over distance, even in silence. Like she was watching a movie downstairs.
Okay.
In the basement, about an athlete, an Olympian, who'd lost a leg. Aquil was upstairs. She's up later, hasn't mentioned the movie at all. He already knows. He types something like, yes, I know he doesn't have a leg, and he's in the Olympics.
Wow. Okay, so distance, silence. Information is still getting through somehow.
There was another one, too. She's reading a book. Alone, in a different room entirely. She'd do pause and just think a question about the book, like, where was the character from?
Just thinking it, not saying it aloud.
Just thinking it. And Aquil, in the other room, could type the correct answer for the book she was reading.
That's pushing the boundaries of what we typically think is possible, for sure. It's no wonder these experiences made an impact on people who saw them.
Yeah, the source material mentions that when Dr. Diane Powell did some initial testing, the author Deepak Chopra was actually there, witnessing it.
Oh, really? Chopra?
Yeah. And apparently he was so kind of shaken or flustered by what he observed that he left his briefcase, his glasses, even his phone behind when he left.
That definitely suggests something unusual was happening. It makes sense, then, that given Aquil could type completely independently, he became a prime candidate for more rigorous, no-touch testing, the kind science demands.
Exactly. They needed to rule out any possibility of cues, conscious or unconscious. And they did conduct those tests.
Okay, let's talk about those. The first one sounds like it was designed to test the timing, the immediacy of it all, the calculator test.
Yeah, this was pretty clever. The host doing the testing, or sometimes Manisha, would type a really long multiplication problem into a calculator, like, 10,315,974 times 4. Big numbers.
Okay, complex calculation.
Right. And crucially, the calculator screen was hidden from Aquil, facing away completely.
So no visual cue possible.
None. And the key thing Manisha noted was the timing. She apparently pointed to her head, then to Aquil, and said, the moment it comes here, it goes there. As soon as the answer popped up on the hidden screen,
He typed it.
he typed a whole 8-digit answer. 44,126,388. Just like that. And they did shorter ones, too, like 25 times 36, hidden calculation, he types 900. The transfer seemed instantaneous.
That synchronicity is compelling. What about other tests? Did they try different kinds of information?
They did. There was the random word generator test. This one was designed specifically to eliminate any lingering doubt about physical cueing or visual information.
How was that set up?
Manisha and Aquil sat side by side.
But the iPad generating the random words was facing completely away from Aquil, actually facing towards the camera, filming it.
Okay, so again, definitely no peeking possible.
Yeah.
And Manisha wasn't touching him.
No touching involved in this test. The generator would display these random, sometimes obscure words like Izard or Kith.
Right, not common words he had likely guessed.
Exactly. And without seeing the screen, without being touched, Aquil typed those specific words accurately on his own keyboard.
So that addresses the independence and the no visual input criteria very strongly. It seems like solid evidence against simple cueing. It does. But then there's the random... That was the conclusion reached by the cinematographer Michael, who was filming this. He reasoned that since Manisha didn't consciously know the meaning, Aquil couldn't just be receiving a finished thought from her brain.
So Michael's theory was
That Aquil must be somehow, like, bypassing her conscious interpretation, using her eyes almost like a camera, like an instrument, to get the raw visual data, and then he was doing the cognitive work of interpreting that data himself.
that is a different model entirely. Not just mind reading, but somehow tapping into her sensory input directly and processing it independently. That's a profound idea.
It really is. And when you start talking about consciousness potentially operating outside the individual brain, well, the source material notes it had a pretty dramatic effect on the people witnessing it. Like that cameraman, Michael. He was initially skeptical.
Understandably so.
But after seeing these tests, he apparently pulled the host aside very seriously and asked, do I have to believe in God now?
Yeah, when your framework of reality gets shaken like that, it forces those big questions, doesn't it? It challenges everything you thought you knew.
And Aquil himself, his perspective is pretty radical too. He apparently believes that the way he communicates, this sort of mind-to-mind thing, isn't unique to him.
Oh, really? What does he think?
He claims that in his world, people communicate just by closing their eyes. And he believes that every non-speaking autistic person actually has this ability. He even thinks maybe we should be taught how to read his mind.
Oh, flipping the script entirely. It's not about him learning our way, but us learning his.
Right. And for Manisha, while the phenomena are fascinating, her ultimate goal, she says, isn't necessarily proving psychic powers. It's simpler, maybe harder. Acceptance.
Acceptance of Aquil and others like him as they are.
Yeah. She worries that society just looks at the outward behaviors, judges non-speaking individuals by those, and then tries to, fix them instead of seeing their skills. Like, Aquil is apparently really good with computer graphics and coding. Those are real talents being overlooked.
It's a call to look beyond the surface, to presume competence like she did, and find ways to connect on their terms too.
Exactly. Aquil himself touched something about this, about society needing to meet them halfway. It was something like, not to think they have to show, but this is not easy. Acknowledging the effort involved on his side, too.
That asks for a level of empathy and patience, doesn't it? Respecting the difficulty of bridging these different ways of experiencing the world.
And just add one more layer that pushes the boundaries even further, the source mentions something quite profound. Aquil has apparently delivered messages from deceased ancestors.
Deceased relatives.
Yeah, messages that Manisha later checked and confirmed were accurate, things Aquil couldn't have known conventionally. She apparently keeps this aspect limited, doesn't focus on it, but acknowledges it happens, suggesting the connection might even transcend, well, life and death.
So if we track this whole story, it goes from a diagnosis of severe limitation to a controversial communication method, then to independent typing, then compelling evidence from no-touch tests suggesting information transfer.
Right, moving from simple telepathy, maybe, to this idea of shared consciousness.
Where one consciousness might directly access the sensory input of another, bypassing conscious processing, and maybe even extending beyond the physical body or conventional time and space.
It really forces you to question the limits we assume exist.
It absolutely does. The core question that Aquil's experiences, as documented in these sources, really puts on the table is, are we looking at proof that consciousness isn't strictly confined by our physical brains, or by space, or even time?
And if that's even a possibility, it fundamentally challenges a purely materialist view of science. It reminds me of that Nikola Tesla quote mentioned in the source, something like,
Oh yeah. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence.
Exactly. So the thought we want to leave you with is this. If this evidence, like Aquil's, points towards a verifiable reality beyond the physical, how might that force us to redefine science itself? What incredible discoveries might we be missing because we're not looking in those non-physical realms? Something to think about.